a lot is happening between India and the United States with the new administration coming in there. To discuss what's hot, what's not, and what's happening, with me joining straight from Washington, D.C., India's ambassador to the United States, Taranjit Sandhu. Welcome, sir. How are you doing? And how is the new government doing there with us?
Thank you. Well, with every new administration, our relationship has been becoming stronger and deeper, and of course, bigger and better. Now, you would recall last year when I had spoken to your channel, I had underlined that we have a bipartisan support here, both from Democrats and Republicans. And I think the first 100 days of Biden administration has clearly shown that. There have been a number of high-level interactions. Prime Minister Modi has spoken to President Biden thrice, and Vice President Kamala Harris has called PM earlier this month. Then the Prime Minister has participated in two important summits, the Quad Leaders and the Climate Change Summit. Now, both had substantive outcomes. External Affairs Minister has visited here last month. He met all the key interlocutors. And of course, he has been in regular touch with Secretary of State. You are also aware that Defense Secretary Austin and Secretary Kerry both visited India earlier this year. Our ministers of finance, commerce, energy, health have all spoken to their counterparts.
Right. That's a lot of engagement, actually. In fact, I thought that once we put the hesitations of history behind, as President Clinton had said once, I think there has been bipartisan support, as you were saying. But then why did we really struggle with the APIs, with the raw materials for vaccines? How are we doing on that front? Is it sorted?
Right. So let me first mention to you that there are five clear key sectors. And these are important sectors in which United States and India is cooperating. And there's a great future. And first one amongst them is, of course, healthcare and pharma. And that includes COVID-19 management, including affordable medicines and vaccines, in which India is an important player. Then there is the IT, digital space. Then the third is energy, renewables, solar, environment, climate change sector. And fourth, of course, is education and knowledge partnership. You are aware we have more than 200,000 Indian students here, most of them in STEM area. And finally, here is the strategic and the defense sector. That includes development, production, IndoPacific, Quad, etc. Now, to answer your question, you have to be very clear that the world today is facing an unprecedented pandemic. There is uncertain, complex, and unpredictable situation. There are local priorities and challenges, not only in the United States, but India too. We have been in regular communication with our interlocutors in the US administration, and these include from Secretary of State Blinken to NSA Sullivan to White House Coordinator Jeff Zients, State Department Wendy Sherman, Guy Smith, Dr. Fauci, Walensky, Dr. Murthy, and all the CEOs of major pharma and US supplier companies, Pfizer, Moderna, Johnson & Johnson, Air Products, Advamed, Thermo Fisher, Eli Lilly, you name them. I've spoken to all of them. Now, the response from all these have been very positive. They have recognized the urgency and they have prioritized the Indian orders. Secondly, remember the Defense Production Act. It's essentially for domestic requirements, but after we took over with the US government, they have removed the Defense Production Act for AstraZeneca and Novavax, and they have redirected their own orders for our manufacturing supplies. And that has ultimately helped in boosting our defense, our own production capabilities, and there have been positive results. So I'm confident in future, any issues come up, we'll take it immediately.
Right. So I can actually clearly see that you have been very active. In fact, I think recently you traveled to Philadelphia to engage with the manufacturing partners of Bharat Biotech on Covaccine, I believe. But I mean, we just want to understand what's the issue. Covaccine is yet to be kind of approved by the Americans. They've not done with the Sputnik as well, but then we are friends.
Look, here again, we need to get our facts clear. Oxygen was in discussion with FDA, but had not filed for an emergency approval for Covaccine. Now, in view of the current local situation, the FDA has advised Oxygen to pursue what is called BLA, that is Biologics License Application. Now, this is a process which is adopted in current circumstances and has been done by all other companies. I understand that Oxygen is pursuing this process. Now, what they have informed me, two things are very important. One, their strength of the vaccine is against current and future variants, including the Delta. And secondly, the vaccine could be given to children. Now, if both these are proved by the facts, then it presents a big global opportunity for Covaccine.
So, I mean, before I go to the next question, so are we looking at the possibility of Covaccine also getting US approval?
Look, I am telling you a bigger picture.
Question from your
if
answer.
Covaccine has both these abilities, then not only the US, but the entire world arena, it will be a much sought after vaccine.
Right. Hope that's going to be good.
And they are in the process of filing.
We recently had. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Go on.
Yeah, they are in the process, as Oxygen has told me. They are in discussions with FDA to file for BLA.
Ambassador, I would kind of move on from this topic. When we discuss geostrategic space, this thrust on Indo-Pacific is essentially seen as Trump legacy. For that very reason, you think that Biden administration, for the Biden administration, this could become a soft focus area? Like we have seen them engaging very aggressively with Europe, with G7, with NATO. But you think Indo-Pacific is going to remain that important and hence India is going to remain that important?
Look, again, let me clarify. The convergence on Indo-Pacific goes way back. First time India, United States, Japan and Australia came together in December 2004. And President George W. Bush was there and the Indian Ocean tsunami had struck. Then again, come to President Obama's time, the famous Republic Day visit in 2015, the joint strategic vision for Asia Pacific and Indian Ocean region. Under Trump, this got further strengthened. Let's come to the current Biden administration. And again, look at the facts. There was so much of noise on Asia Pacific, but it is Indo-Pacific vision now. The first summit by the new administration was the Quad Summit. Look at the statements of President Biden, Secretary Blinken, NSA Sullivan, all the senior officials. Look at the interim strategic guidance document. Indo-Pacific is very much there. Now, the Quad Summit had 3 substantial outcomes. 3 working groups have been established. The experts are presently working at that. And the in-person Quad Summit is scheduled to happen at the end of the year. Now, to the second question, United States, for them, Europe is a traditional partner. US focus has been on Europe and NATO, and Indo-Pacific is not mutually exclusive. There is increased interest in Indo-Pacific, even amongst the European countries. In fact, the EU recognizes India as a crucial actor in the evolving geostrategic environment. And in fact, very recently, the EU held a seminar here on transatlantic relations. And I was the only ambassador who was invited to participate. So foreign policy is never a zero-sum game. And this is not mutually exclusive.
Right, sir. Ambassador, sometime back, External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar made a visit to the United States since we are talking for the first time after that. And he met all the top echelons of the government in DC and corporate America in New York. Could you just give us some idea of what have been the takeaways?
Sure. So EM's visit was significant, focused, substantial, and comprehensive. It was the first visit in person by a cabinet minister. In Biden administration, he met all the key Biden cabinet secretaries that included Blinken, Austin, Sullivan, USTR Tai, DNI Hines, high officials from most of the departments whom we work closely with. Besides, he also met the top members of the Congress, senior leaders of the industry. Both USIBC and USISPF did events for him. He also met strategic experts. So all in all, it was an important opportunity to engage the new administration on both bilateral and regional issues of interest.
Right, sir. I'll actually come back to your Twitter timeline. You know, your engagements have gone beyond DC, I could see, and you have traveled to states, meeting congressmen, you meeting senators, meeting governors. I mean, what is your assessment of the present station of the Indo-US partnership outside of DC?
See, Abhishek, in the United States, it's very important to engage all actors and in pursuing our immediate and long-term interests. And these conversations have been positive with tangible results. There is concrete and solid support from the US. It stood shoulder to shoulder with India, recalling support that India had earlier given to them, whether it is administration, US Congress, private sector, or American people during the COVID-19 surge. And I've already outlined our engagements with the US administration. But look at the results. Firstly, 7 US Air Force flights with materials over $100 million from the US administrations have arrived in India. Then allocation of vaccines. India is featuring in all the categories, whether Covaccine, whether neighbors and partners, whether separate allocation of Pfizer, which President Biden recently announced. Then removal of Defense Production Act for AstraZeneca and Novavax. Then US administration support for WTO IPR waiver. This happened after Prime Minister's call to President Biden. Now, this is very significant. And I'm glad you have mentioned the governors. Please remember that states play an important part in the United States. I have spoken to more than 20 governors in the last year. All of them want to deepen the relationship in healthcare, digital IT, energy, knowledge and education partnerships. In particular, I would also like to draw our attention to the US Congress. You know, the embassy has undertaken a methodical and focused approach. Besides our traditional allies, which are the India caucus, on the Capitol, this time more than 150 members of the US Congress have issued statements, letters, or tweets. Now, these include senior congresspersons like leaders Steny Hoyer, Jim Clyburn, Meeks, members of the powerful Black Caucus, Karen Bass, Barbara Lee, etc., Hispanic Caucus. This includes all their leaders, then Progressive Caucus, Congresswoman Jayapal, Shakovsky, McGovern, etc. American, what we call is Asian American Caucus, even them. And then finally, of course, not to forget the Republicans, Leader McCall, Shabba, Fruntsbury, etc. Right. Similarly, in the Senate, you have Leader Chuck Schumer, etc., etc. I can name all of them. Now, this is very significant. And in addition to all this, there was nearly 350 million US dollar contributions by the private sector. And that includes all the top companies, whether Pfizer, Accenture, US Chamber, Boeing, Google, Facebook, etc., etc. And a global task force on pandemic was formed. And finally, the people. So all in all, Abhishek, I will say we have covered new grounds with Biden administration, with bipartisan outreach to the US Congress, third US industry and business, and finally the people. And I'm very confident that our relationship will go deeper and much ahead.
Right, sir. I wish I could have more follow-up questions, but those are tangible results, and you are keeping gainfully engaged with the United States on behalf of people of India. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.